Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, setting the record straight about climate. Experts say that global warming is causing a plague of locusts in Africa. AP explains how climate change feeds Africa locust invasion. Locusts by the millions are nibbling their way across a large part of Africa in the worst outbreak some places have seen in 70 years. Is this another effect of a changing climate? Yes, researchers say. An unprecedented food security crisis may be the result. I'm not sure which researchers they spoke with, but famine around the world is down 99% over the last 60 years. Famine is currently at unprecedented low levels around the world. When a climate reporter says something is unprecedented, it normally means the exact opposite of what they're trying to say. The availability of low-cost energy has lifted people around the world out of poverty, squalor, and famine. The human race has never lived better than it does right now. But it wasn't always like this. Here's a 1954 newsreel of a locust invasion in Africa.
Not with guns and tanks, but with chemicals and DDT, French Morocco fights an enemy as ruthless and as devastating as any on Earth. A hungry horde of locusts. Gorging themselves on everything and anything, even cactus plants. The locusts attacked by the hundreds of thousands, eating their way across the countryside. 500,000 acres of rich, fertile land are ravaged in one valley alone. Man's efforts are futile against the rapidly multiplying locusts, gnawing eagerly through new fields. As far as the eye can see, devastation, utter and complete devastation. The locusts have come and gone.
1954 was a very extreme year around the world and in the United States. A number of states and cities set their all-time high temperature record during the summer of 1954, including Boulder, Colorado, where I live. The summer of 1954 was also one of the worst droughts in U.S. history. And Canada was hit by its deadliest hurricane in 1954.
An ominous blanket of water, the calling card of Hurricane Hazel, covers Holland Marsh, a 30-square-mile area near Bradford, Ontario. Rich farmland, crops, machinery lie 20 feet deep. But Holland Marsh, like Old Holland, knows how to fight a flood. A vast drainage program starts, a battle to reclaim the land. 1,000 homeless receive food, most of them sturdy settlers from Europe's lowlands, like those who originally reclaimed the area. Other sections of Canada send emergency supplies for stricken Holland Marsh, whose valiant residents hope to have most of the land ready again come planting time.
Hurricane Hazel did lots of damage in the United States too, and it came just a few weeks after two major hurricanes struck New England. The two hurricanes, Carol and Edna, came within 10 days of each other, and New England has not been hit by a major hurricane since 1954. Also during 1954, Venice, Italy had a huge flood.
Venice is hit by, of all things, a flood, with the city of canals plagued with canals where canals shouldn't be. Pedestrians take to catwalks with no gondolas in sight, or else slosh through the water up to their knees. The people of Venice aren't the only ones inconvenienced by the watery blanket. Even the pigeons are driven from their curbside haunts as floods make news in Venice.
Now let's return to the present and talk about the current locust invasion. Climate alarmists want people to believe that the invasion of locusts in Africa is due to man's carbon sins. The idea being that burning fossil fuels caused the climate to change, which brought the locust plague. Climate alarmists also blame last year's flooding in Venice on climate change. Never mind that a locust plague and Venice flooding also occurred in 1954, when atmospheric CO2 levels were much lower than they are now. The similarity to 70 years ago would be evidence that the climate has not changed. If climate alarmists thought rationally, they would understand this. Reality is that humans have been affected by plagues of locusts in Africa for as long as there's been humans in Africa. In the Bible, Exodus 10, Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, "This is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. How long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go so that they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I will bring locusts into your country." They will cover the face of the ground so that it cannot be seen. They will devour what little you have left after the hail, including every tree that is growing in your fields. They will fill your houses and those of all your officials and all the Egyptians, something neither your parents nor your ancestors have ever seen from the day they settled in this land until now. Then Moses turned and left Pharaoh. So the message was that the locust came as punishment for sin. And this is essentially the same explanation for the current locust invasion. Climate alarmists are tapping into very old ideas which are embedded deeply in the public psyche. Now let's look at how the researchers explain this. How is climate change involved? Heavy rains in East Africa made 2019 one of the region's wettest years on record. They said that rapidly warming waters in the Indian Ocean off Africa's eastern coast caused heavy rainfall and warmer temperatures, which led to the locust breeding. This is the current NOAA sea surface temperature anomaly map. It shows nearly equal amounts of temperatures below normal as it has above normal. Below normal is shown in blue. Apparently, the researchers want us to believe that this warm area east of Africa is due to global warming, and they also want us to ignore the blue areas which surround it. No serious scientist would make an unsupportable assertion like that, but we're dealing with climate scientists, not actual scientists. In 2007, when Al Gore came out with his sci-fi flick, generals, diplomats, and Democrats agreed global warming threatens national security. Growing concern surrounds a new national security threat, an insidious threat that could foster terrorism worldwide and draw our armed forces into messy regional conflicts in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. No, it isn't nuclear proliferation, nor is it a new brand of religious fundamentalism. It's global warming. The same people who want us to believe that global warming is due to man's carbon sins tell us that it's not religious fundamentalism. I find that pretty entertaining. They believe in man's carbon sins. They demand that we confess and repent. They demand that we believe their prophecies of doom in the future, and they demand that we pay tithes. They refuse to allow any other belief system to be heard. How is this not a religion? Now let's go back in time 45 years. Back in 1974, climatologists blamed floods, droughts, hurricanes, tornadoes, and famine in Africa on global cooling. But now they blame the exact same things on global warming. During the 1970s, the CIA made alarming forecasts about global cooling. If the cooling trend of the 1960s and 1970s, with the increased climatic variability that accompanies it, is maintained into the 1980s and 1990s, as most climatologists expect, we shall see more bad harvests, more crop failures, more hunger, and probably more famine. The coldest period of the past millennium was the Little Ice Age, from about 1550 to 1850, reaching its peak intensity at different times around the world. The 17th century was a period of cold and highly variable weather in Europe. Social unrest followed. The French Revolution of 1789 and the European Year of Revolutions in 1848 both came after extremely cold periods and bad harvests. So everything that climatologists blame now on global warming are exactly the same things they blamed on global cooling 45 years ago. But not to worry, Michael Mann has erased the Little Ice Age, and Scientific American has erased the 1970s global cooling scare. And here's an extra bonus from Africa. In the year 2001, experts predicted that the snows of Kilimanjaro would be gone by the year 2020. They predicted that all of the ice would be gone between 2010 and 2020, and said that was probably a conservative estimate. Well, there's still lots of snow and ice up on Kilimanjaro. Like just about every other expert climate forecast, they were wrong. I'm going to end this video with one more newsreel from 1954. It's about families risking everything to flee communism.
A boatload of refugees sails away from the Indochina coast in a pathetic postscript to war. These are Catholic families fleeing the communists. French destroyers meet the flimsy rafts outside red waters. Aboard boats often partly awash, entire families risk death rather than live under a regime that would try to crush their religious beliefs. Old and young, shivering and hungry, they are hustled aboard one of 7 French destroyers that have rescued 12,000 refugees, taking them to non-communist areas. Shyly, they examine strange new surroundings. Names are given, future address unknown. Prayers of gratitude are offered for a safe deliverance by the children of war in Indochina.
Climate change and socialism have become the official religions of the left. Pope Francis says those who deny climate change have perverse attitudes. And Democrats in Congress are doing everything they can to force their apocalyptic climate prophecies on everybody else. They want climate heretics censored and or prosecuted. They want to believe that humans control the climate and thus are at the center of the climate universe. It's a throwback to the 16th century. G.K. Chesterton said, "When people stop believing in God, it's not that they believe nothing, it's that they will believe anything." We have a new climate religion, and Toto is a heretic to that religion. Visit Toto on the web at realclimatescience.com. He's been pulling back the curtain on junk science and propaganda for a long time.